Gambling addiction has affected numerous celebrities throughout history, leading to devastating financial losses and personal struggles. These stories serve as cautionary tales about the dangers of compulsive gambling, showing how even the wealthiest and most successful individuals can lose everything to their addiction. Here are 20 celebrities whose gambling habits cost them their fortunes, careers, and sometimes their lives. 1. Michael Jordan. While Michael Jordan never lost everything, his gambling habits were legendary and concerning. The basketball icon was known for his massive sports betting, poker games, and casino visits. Jordan's gambling was so extensive that it allegedly influenced his first retirement from basketball in 1993. He was reported to have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in single poker sessions and Atlantic City visits. His gambling debts were rumored to be in the millions, and some speculated that his father's tragic death was connected to Michael's gambling activities, though this was never proven. Jordan's gambling addiction was well documented, with teammates and associates regularly witnessing his compulsive betting behavior. Despite his enormous wealth from basketball and endorsements, Jordan's gambling losses were substantial enough to cause concern among those close to him. His addiction extended to golf betting, where he would wager tens of thousands on single holes. The NBA reportedly investigated his gambling activities multiple times, and some believe his gambling problems were a factor in the league's decision to suspend him, though this was officially framed as a voluntary retirement. 2. Pete Rose. Pete Rose, baseball's all-time hits leader, saw his entire legacy destroyed by gambling. Rose was banned from baseball for life in 1989 after investigations revealed he had bet on baseball games, including those involving his own team, the Cincinnati Reds, while serving as their manager. His gambling addiction was so severe that he accumulated massive debts to bookmakers, putting him in dangerous situations with loan sharks and organized crime figures. Rose initially denied betting on baseball for years, but eventually admitted to it in 2004. His gambling addiction cost him his spot in the Baseball Hall of Fame, his reputation, and millions in potential earnings from baseball-related activities. Rose's gambling problems began early in his career and escalated over time. He was known to bet on football, basketball, and horse racing in addition to baseball. The amounts he wagered grew increasingly larger as his addiction progressed. By the time of his ban, Rose owed substantial amounts to various bookmakers and was facing potential violence from creditors. His gambling addiction ultimately overshadowed one of the greatest careers in baseball history, transforming him from a beloved sports hero into a cautionary tale about the destructive power of gambling addiction. 3. Charles Barkley. NBA legend Charles Barkley has been remarkably open about his gambling addiction, admitting to losing approximately $10 million over his lifetime. Barkley's gambling problems became publicly known during his playing career and continued well into his broadcasting career. He was known for making enormous sports bets, sometimes wagering hundreds of thousands on single games. Barkley's gambling addiction was so severe that he once lost $2.5 million in a single night of blackjack. His preferred games included blackjack and sports betting, and he was a regular at casinos in Las Vegas, Atlantic City, and other gambling destinations. Barkley has admitted that his gambling addiction nearly destroyed his family relationships and caused significant financial strain despite his substantial earnings as a player and broadcaster. He has spoken candidly about the psychological aspects of his addiction, describing the rush he felt when gambling and how it became an escape from other pressures in his life. Barkley's openness about his addiction has helped raise awareness about gambling problems among athletes and celebrities. He has sought treatment multiple times and has been relatively successful in controlling his gambling in recent years, though he acknowledges it remains an ongoing struggle. 4. John Daly. Professional golfer John Daly's gambling addiction has been as well documented as his powerful drives and colorful personality. Daly has admitted to losing between $50–60 million to gambling over his career, an astounding figure that dwarfs the prize money he earned on the golf course. His gambling addiction began early in his professional career and escalated dramatically over the years. Daly was known for his high-stakes slot machine play, often losing hundreds of thousands of dollars in single casino visits. His gambling problems were so severe that he would sometimes lose his entire tournament winnings in the casino immediately after competing. Daly's addiction extended beyond slots to sports betting, poker, and other casino games. He has described gambling as his primary addiction, even more destructive than his well-publicized struggles with alcohol. Daly's gambling losses contributed to multiple divorces, financial difficulties, and periods of depression. He has been banned from several casinos due to his erratic behavior while gambling. Despite earning millions from golf winnings, endorsements, and business ventures, Daly's gambling addiction left him in financial ruin multiple times. He has sought treatment for his addiction and has been more open in recent years about the devastating impact gambling had on his life and career. 5. Art Schlichter. Former NFL quarterback Art Schlichter's story is perhaps the most tragic example of gambling addiction destroying a promising career. Schlichter's gambling problems began in college at Ohio State, where he was caught betting on games. Despite this early warning sign, he was drafted by the Baltimore Colts in 1982. His NFL career was short-lived, lasting only parts of 4 seasons, primarily due to his gambling addiction. Schlichter was suspended by the NFL for gambling in 1983 and never fully recovered his career. His gambling addiction was so severe that he accumulated massive debts and turned to various illegal schemes to fund his betting. Over the years, Schlichter was involved in numerous fraud schemes, including check forgery, credit card fraud, and investment scams. He has been arrested and imprisoned multiple times for crimes related to his gambling addiction. Schlichter's gambling losses are estimated in the millions, and he has admitted to defrauding friends, family members, and investors out of additional millions to fund his gambling. His addiction cost him his NFL career, his freedom, his family relationships, and his reputation. Schlichter's story serves as one of the most extreme examples of how gambling addiction can completely destroy a person's life. 6. Allen Iverson. NBA superstar Allen Iverson earned over $200 million during his playing career but reportedly lost much of it to gambling and poor financial management. Iverson's gambling problems were well known within NBA circles, with reports of him losing substantial amounts at casinos and in private poker games. His gambling addiction was particularly focused on dice games and sports betting. Iverson was known to carry large amounts of cash and bet impulsively on various games and events. His gambling losses were compounded by excessive spending on jewelry, cars, and maintaining a large entourage. By 2012, despite his massive career earnings, Iverson was reportedly nearly broke and struggling financially. His gambling addiction contributed to the loss of endorsement deals and business opportunities. Iverson's financial problems became so severe that he had to rely on friends and former teammates for financial support. His gambling addiction also strained his relationships with family and friends, as he would often borrow money to fund his betting. The combination of gambling losses and lavish spending left one of the NBA's most iconic players in financial ruin, demonstrating how quickly even massive wealth can disappear when gambling addiction takes hold. 7. Gladys Knight. R.B. legend. Gladys Knight faced significant financial difficulties due to gambling addiction that nearly destroyed her career and personal life. Knight's gambling problems began relatively late in her career, but quickly escalated to dangerous levels. She was primarily addicted to baccarat, often losing tens of thousands of dollars in single casino sessions. Knight's gambling addiction was so severe that she would skip important career obligations to gamble. Her addiction led to massive debts and the loss of several properties, including her home. Knight has been open about how gambling addiction affected her family relationships and nearly cost her everything she had worked for throughout her successful music career. She describes gambling as providing an escape from the pressures of fame and personal problems, but acknowledges that it became a destructive force in her life. Knight sought treatment for her gambling addiction and has been in recovery for many years. She has become an advocate for gambling addiction awareness and has spoken publicly about the need for better treatment options. Knight's experience demonstrates that gambling addiction can affect anyone, regardless of age, success, or background, and that recovery is possible with proper treatment and support. 8. Ben Affleck. Academy Award-winning actor Ben Affleck has struggled with gambling addiction for many years, with his problems becoming public knowledge in the early 2000s. Affleck's gambling addiction primarily focused on poker and blackjack, and he was known to play for extremely high stakes. His gambling problems became so severe that he was reportedly banned from several Las Vegas casinos for card counting. Affleck's gambling addiction contributed to the breakdown of his marriage to Jennifer Garner, along with his struggles with alcohol. His gambling losses were reported to be in the hundreds of thousands and possibly millions of dollars. Affleck has admitted that gambling provided an escape from the pressures of Hollywood and his personal problems, but he acknowledges that it became a destructive addiction. He has sought treatment for his gambling addiction as part of his overall recovery from various addictions. Affleck's gambling problems have been well documented by the media, and he has been relatively open about his struggles. His experience highlights how gambling addiction often co-occurs with other addictive behaviors and mental health issues. Despite his continued success in Hollywood, Affleck's gambling addiction remains an ongoing challenge that requires constant management and attention. 9. Mario Lemieux. NHL legend Mario Lemieux, while primarily known for his incredible hockey career, also faced significant gambling problems that cost him substantial amounts of money. Lemieux's gambling addiction was primarily focused on sports betting and casino games. His gambling problems became particularly severe during his playing career, when he would often visit casinos during road trips. Lemieux was known for making large sports bets and playing high-stakes poker games. His gambling addiction was so concerning that it allegedly influenced some of his career decisions and relationships with teammates. While Lemieux never lost everything due to his substantial hockey earnings and business investments, his gambling losses were significant enough to cause concern among those close to him. He was reportedly involved in several high-stakes gambling situations that put him at risk financially and personally. Lemieux has been relatively private about his gambling problems compared to other athletes, but those within hockey circles were aware of his struggles. His gambling addiction serves as another example of how even the most successful athletes can fall victim to compulsive gambling. Lemieux's eventual success as an owner of the Pittsburgh Penguins helped stabilize his finances, but his gambling problems during his playing career were a significant concern. 10. Dorothy Dandridge. Legendary actress and singer Dorothy Dandridge, one of the first African-American women to be nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress, lost much of her wealth to gambling addiction. Dandridge's gambling problems developed during the height of her career in the 1950s and early 1960s. She was known to frequent casinos and was particularly drawn to poker and dice games. Dandridge's gambling addiction was compounded by poor financial management and exploitation by managers and agents. Her gambling losses, combined with tax problems and declining career opportunities, left her in severe financial distress by the mid-1960s. Dandridge's gambling addiction contributed to depression and other mental health issues that plagued her later years. She would often gamble away money that was meant for basic living expenses and her daughter's care. Her gambling problems were exacerbated by the limited opportunities available to African-American performers of her era, which created additional financial pressure. Dandridge's gambling addiction ultimately contributed to her tragic early death in 1965 at age 42. Her story demonstrates how gambling addiction can be particularly devastating for those facing other societal and professional challenges. Dandridge died nearly broke, despite having been one of the most talented and beautiful performers of her generation. 11. Mickey Rooney. Hollywood legend Mickey Rooney, despite earning millions throughout his long career, died nearly broke in 2014, with gambling addiction being a significant factor in his financial ruin. Rooney's gambling problems spanned decades, beginning in the 1940s when he was one of Hollywood's biggest stars. He was known to bet on horse races, sports events, and casino games, often wagering amounts that exceeded his ability to pay. Rooney's gambling addiction was so severe that he would sometimes bet his entire salary from a movie on a single horse race or poker game. His gambling losses were compounded by multiple divorces and poor business investments. Throughout his career, Rooney repeatedly found himself in financial trouble, despite commanding high salaries for his performances. He was known to borrow money from friends, colleagues, and studios to cover his gambling debts. Rooney's gambling addiction continued well into his later years, even as his earning power diminished. By the time of his death, he had only 18 to his name, despite having earned an estimated $12 million throughout his career. His gambling addiction, combined with financial exploitation by some of his wives and financial advisors, left one of Hollywood's most beloved stars in poverty. Rooney's story is a tragic example of how gambling addiction can persist throughout a lifetime and ultimately destroy even the most successful careers. 12. Sammy Davis Jr. Sammy Davis Jr., a member of the famous Rat Pack and one of entertainment's most versatile performers, lost significant portions of his wealth to gambling addiction throughout his career. Davis was known for his high-stakes gambling at Las Vegas casinos, where he was a regular performer and patron. His gambling addiction was particularly focused on craps, poker, and sports betting. Davis would often gamble between shows and was known to lose substantial amounts in single sessions. His gambling problems were exacerbated by his lavish lifestyle and generous spending on friends and associates. Davis's gambling addiction contributed to ongoing financial difficulties despite his substantial earnings from performances, recordings, and appearances. He was known to owe money to various casinos and had to negotiate payment plans for his gambling debts. Davis's gambling problems were well known within the entertainment industry, and he often had to take additional performing engagements to cover his gambling losses. His addiction continued throughout his life, even as health problems began to limit his earning capacity. Davis died in 1990 with substantial debts, much of which were related to his gambling addiction. His story demonstrates how gambling addiction can persist even among those who should theoretically have had the resources and support to overcome it. 13. Janis Joplin. Rock legend Janis Joplin, while primarily known for her struggles with drugs and alcohol, also had significant gambling problems that contributed to her financial difficulties. Joplin's gambling addiction was less well publicized than her substance abuse issues, but it was nonetheless a significant problem in her life. She was known to gamble compulsively on various games, including poker and dice games. Joplin's gambling often occurred in conjunction with her drug and alcohol use, creating a dangerous combination of addictive behaviors. Her gambling losses, while not as massive as some other celebrities due to her relatively short career, were significant relative to her income and contributed to her ongoing financial instability. Joplin would often gamble away money that was meant for basic living expenses and recording costs. Her gambling addiction was part of a broader pattern of self-destructive behavior that characterized her brief but intense career. Those close to Joplin reported that she used gambling as another form of escape from the pressures of fame and her personal demons. Her gambling problems were overshadowed by her more visible addictions, but they nonetheless contributed to the chaos and instability that marked her final years. Joplin died in 1970 at age 27, leaving behind significant debts and a legacy of what might have been. 14. Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra, while never losing everything to gambling, had well-documented gambling problems that cost him significant amounts of money throughout his career. Sinatra was a regular at Las Vegas casinos and was known for his high-stakes gambling, particularly at poker and craps tables. His gambling was often done in the company of other celebrities and members of organized crime, which added additional risk to his activities. Sinatra's gambling losses were substantial, though his enormous earnings from his music and film careers meant he could absorb the losses better than many other celebrities. He was known to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars in single gambling sessions and was a frequent player in private, high-stakes poker games. Sinatra's gambling addiction was part of his larger-than-life persona, but it also created ongoing financial and personal complications. His association with known gamblers and organized crime figures through his gambling activities caused problems with law enforcement and hurt his reputation at various points in his career. Despite his gambling problems, Sinatra's diverse income streams and business investments helped him maintain his wealth throughout his life. However, his gambling addiction serves as another example of how even the most successful entertainers can develop serious gambling problems. 15. Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston's financial problems were primarily attributed to drug addiction, but gambling also played a significant role in her financial decline. Houston developed gambling problems later in her career, often visiting casinos and betting substantial amounts on various games. Her gambling addiction was less publicized than her drug problems, but it contributed significantly to her financial difficulties. Houston was known to lose large sums of money gambling, sometimes in single sessions at casinos. Her gambling problems were often connected to her drug use, as both provided forms of escape from her personal and professional problems. Houston's gambling losses, combined with drug expenses, lavish spending, and poor financial management, contributed to her declaration of financial difficulties in her later years. She was reportedly in significant debt at the time of her death in 2012, despite having earned hundreds of millions during her career. Houston's gambling addiction was part of a broader pattern of addictive behaviors that ultimately destroyed her career and contributed to her tragic death. Her story demonstrates how multiple addictions can compound each other and accelerate financial and personal destruction. Houston's gambling problems were a lesser-known aspect of her struggles, but they nonetheless played a role in her tragic decline. 16. Bjorn Borg. Tennis legend Bjorn Borg faced significant financial difficulties, partly due to gambling problems that developed after his retirement from professional tennis. Borg's gambling addiction became particularly problematic in the 1980s and 1990s, when he was attempting various business ventures. He was known to gamble substantial amounts at casinos and was particularly drawn to poker and other card games. Borg's gambling problems were compounded by poor business investments and tax difficulties in Sweden. His gambling losses contributed to financial difficulties that forced him to auction off some of his tennis trophies and memorabilia. Borg's gambling addiction was part of a broader struggle to find purpose and excitement after retiring from tennis at the young age of 26. He has been relatively private about his gambling problems, but they were serious enough to contribute to his financial distress during the 1980s and 1990s. Borg eventually overcame his gambling problems and rebuilt his finances through various business ventures and his involvement in tennis-related activities. His experience demonstrates how retirement can be particularly challenging for athletes who develop gambling addictions as a way to recreate the excitement and competition they experienced in their sport.